Hey, so we figured that you're doing this awareness ride for Tourette's. It'd be a good opportunity to sort of spread a bit of awareness onto the site, and let's have a little bit of a chat about the Tourette's.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess the start point is, what is Tourette?
So Tourette's is a neurological condition that is characterized by involuntary muscle movements and or vocalizations known as tics. For every person, tics can vary greatly, and there's a variety of different types of tics. You've got a couple of different types of tics. So you've got simple motor tics, which might be things like finger clicking or eye blinking and stuff like that. Then you've got simple vocal tics, which might be things like squeaks or sounds, clicks. So they're sort of the more simple style of tics. And then you've got complex motor tics, which are more things like might be, in some cases, injurious activities like hitting oneself or biting, poking people, twirling, multi-part tics. And then you've got your complex vocal tics, which are things like coprolalia, which is the swearing side, palalia as well. And so you've got, there's some where you're repeating words that have been said, or obviously, like I said, the coprolalia is swearing. It's actually a really low percentage of people with Tourette's that have the coprolalia. So when you see things about it on TV or in TV shows, movies, etc., a lot of the time that's what they'll portray, is they'll show the swearing side of it. When in reality, for most of it, that's a really small part of the Tourette's. Obviously, there are people that have the coprolalia, palalia, etc. quite bad. Mine can flare up depending on the day, but it is a very, very small part of Tourette's. There's a lot more to it.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess what are the main tics that you have, particularly the ones that I guess cause you the most difficulty?
Yeah, so I've got a range of tics. My tics sort of tend to change a little bit more on a day-to-day basis, the severity of my tics. So a lot of people with Tourette's will find that their tics will change over sort of 3 to 4 month periods, although it's a little bit different for everyone. For myself personally, I find that the severity of my tics will change more on a day-to-day basis, depending on how I'm feeling, how much sleep I've had, how my stress levels are. But what the tics themselves are will generally change over a couple of month period. So there's a little bit different for everyone. For me personally, I've got a couple of, I guess, that I'll call minor tics. So I've got my eye blinking, clicking, scrunching my nose. I've got that one, so click and then give the finger. That one can be a little bit awkward sometimes. I think for me, the ones that I probably struggle the most with, certainly outwardly, and I do have some self-hitting tics as well, so I'll tap my chest. But generally the ones that affect me more in my day-to-day life and when I'm out in public are my vocal tics. So I have some probably not the most appropriate words, but again, it's something that I can't control, so just trying to educate people around me around it. I do tend to find that I get a fair few stares, but it's kind of, I guess, being okay with yourself and who you are does help a bit with that. And it's something that I'll admit that I am still working on every day. So for me, the coprolalia, I've got one that tells people to suck a dick. I'm not going to repeat my others because I know that it will get taken down off Facebook, unfortunately. But for me, they're probably the harder ones to deal with. And they're certainly the ones that get me the most judgment, the most stares. And for me personally, being a younger looking, not particularly big female, I tend to get a lot of, in particular, older guys and older women making comments to me that, oh, ladies, girls shouldn't use that language. And I'm like, well, yeah, I know that. We're taught that in school. I'm aware of what I should and shouldn't say, but unfortunately there are some days where I can't always control that. So yeah, for me, I guess, like I said, my vocal tics are probably the hardest part, personally, certainly when I'm out in public. I also work I'm really fortunate at work that I work for a family mountain bike business, and everyone is super supportive. And all the guys, all the staff that I work with are aware and inclusive, and I never feel uncomfortable on site with them, but it is sometimes a bit uncomfortable, and I do think about the age groups that I coach some days when I've got my vocal tics. So obviously the older kids are sometimes a little bit more understanding and they're not as offended. I try not to teach the really little kids when I've got my copralia so much, but for me that's a little bit just managing it day to day. All the kids that I coach and that I work with are absolutely amazing and fantastic. And you know, I'm pretty open about my Tourette's with most groups that I have at work. So hopefully trying to spread some awareness that way and show them that I'm just a normal person that can do the same thing as everyone else. So
yeah, when you're out riding, I guess and teaching, it's something where you tend to be a little bit more relaxed, and that makes it a bit easier for you to control the tics, does it?
Yeah, so I definitely find, like, when I'm in a relaxed environment, I find it a lot easier to I guess either not tick or just to what we call suppress my tics. So I do find that a bit easier when I'm not stressed. I also find, for me, a lot of people with Tourette's will have an activity or a couple of things that they don't necessarily tick as much or at all when they're doing. And for me, I'm really fortunate that riding my mountain bike and riding my motorbike are two things where I find that I don't really tick while I'm actually physically on the bikes. And I think for me, it's a little bit of a concentration thing. I have to concentrate so that I don't crash and die. So I think there's that little bit of it for me. So anything sort of adventure sports, adrenaline filled, I find that I can kind of suppress my tics and put them to the side while I'm doing the activity. They certainly don't affect me. So maybe I do tick, but I don't notice it. So
yeah, okay. And people sort of describe suppressing tics as a little bit like trying to hold in a sneeze. Could you sort of talk about that a bit?
Yeah, so a lot of people with Tourette's can suppress their tics for a limited period of time. Some people can for longer than others, but all that really does most of the time is delays a more severe tic outburst. So you'll find that certainly kids at school that have learnt those skills will quite often, or people in the workplace, suppress their tics during the day when they're out and about. And then when they're home, back in their safe place, that's where their tics will come out full ball. And yeah, they kind of come out more aggressively. Yeah.
So, and I guess the key to the whole awareness thing is, how would you like to see people react if you're ticking quite badly and you say, hey, look, I've got Tourette's, I'm sorry, I can't help this?
I think for me, the big thing is just accepting it. I would much rather someone ask me questions about what Tourette's is or why I'm doing something than get out a phone and start videoing or, you know, make inappropriate comments, remarks, make me feel uncomfortable. Unfortunately, in today's society and day and age, it is really common for people to have cameras on their phones and cameras easily accessible. And obviously people like filming stuff that they don't see often, that isn't the norm. So I tend to find that I have had some people try and video when I'm ticking and stuff, and that's really not appropriate. So the biggest thing that, you know, for me is either don't stare because it doesn't concern you, ask me if I'm okay, or ask me a question about what it is. That's okay, and I'm okay with that. Don't get your videos out, your video cameras out, your phones out. Like, there's no need for it. It's not funny. It's our everyday life. It's something that we deal with, and you know, we don't want to find that up on the internet with people mocking it. And unfortunately that has happened to some of the people I know in the TS community. I've been quite fortunate with that. And certainly when I was at primary school, high school, camera phones were only just kind of coming out. So I was really lucky with that, that it wasn't as accessible. But now you find everyone has a camera on them all the time. And it's certainly something that I do think about and that does worry me when I'm out in public ticking.
Okay. Well, thanks for that, and yeah, we'll post more stuff up here as you get a chance.
Thanks heaps for that, and thanks guys for following my page. Feel free to share it around and try and spread the awareness. Get on board with a good cause. If you want to check out some more information about Tourette syndrome, jump on Tourette Syndrome Association of Australia website. They've got some amazing resources, and they're a really good support network for people living with Tourette's and their families. But also they've got resources for people, just general public, for schools, for teachers, pretty much for everyone, for emergency services.